right, we're live.
All right, welcome to the show. It is a show, and if you are watching this, then you are in for a show, because apparently AMA is a thing that most of you might know about. Of course, I didn't know that was a thing, but ask me anything. Be a chance to hear some stories, get to know everybody a little bit better. Who knows what we're going to hear today, but hopefully it will be interesting and funny and informative, and might lead to some good or possibly bad decisions in your life. So before we get going here, we want to give ourselves as much time as possible to go on and on with some stories. Let's meet the team from Mean Joe Advertising. So Stephanie Keogh, a very special day. Happy birthday, Stephanie. Ooh. Sorry, Andrew, to put a timestamp on this one if anyone knows Stephanie's birthday. Anthony Taylor, Jimmy White, and of course DJ Renop, Mike Bloomstein. I'm Todd Burke. I think I forget to do that every week. Excited to be here with everybody. Let's just go a little bit of what do we call it, housekeeping here. So if you have any questions, drop them in the chat below. We'll answer them when we see them. Let us know you're here. We'd love to know who's here and say hi back. And then, of course, subscribe and hit the like button. So without further ado, everyone's favorite part of the huddle, especially tonight, the happy hour part. Let's see what everybody is drinking. And we'll start with the birthday girl. Stephanie, what do you have?
So I made a batch of rum punch. That's my evening.
Nice. That is a birthday right there. Awesome. How about Jimmy? What do you got down there?
Got another hard seltzer, but this one is blueberry.
Ah, nice. Mike?
Masthead. Just went down the street to Masthead, to say hi.
Nice. Now, Anthony?
We're going Cleveland whiskey right out of the bottom. No, Cleveland whiskey as always.
I was really looking forward to see you going from the bottle the whole time, but I have the Basil Hayden Dark Rye actually on the rocks here tonight. So cheers, good to see everyone. Happy birthday.
Yeah, let's get after it.
All right, so ask me anything, huh? Episode 18.
Yeah, so I figure, usually it's just part of like asking one person something, since there's a bunch of us. Figure it might be good to start off with a just everybody question, and we'll go through it in seniority. So Todd, what's your favorite success story from Mean Joe's work?
Yeah, so great question, and even though I kind of knew it in advance, it's really hard for being around for over 8.5 years. There have been really cool things that have happened, successes that our partners have had that we've had our hand in, and it's been really cool and really fun to be part of some pretty amazing stories, and some really cool events and some really cool, photo shoots and video shoots, and there have been so many things, and so I'll just pick out one. So I might tell more than one. Maybe at the end I'll come up with another one. But we work with two car dealerships down in Massillon, Progressive Chevrolet and Progressive Chrysler Dodge Jeep, and the way that came about was that the owner of a radio sales rep, if they knew who was responsible for the advertising for Northeast Factory Direct. And the sales rep from the radio station, knew that it was us and somebody who we know. Oh yeah, that's one of our partners and we know them really well. And Craig from Progressive, said he liked the the messaging. He liked the, the strategy that they had, and he almost, he made up a little bit of story in his head of how it all came about, and he was pretty close to, on point with, why we do what we do, why Northeast Factory does what they do. And he said that, he wanted to be introduced. And so we were introduced, and the long story short is we worked together. And I think what I love about it, first of all, it involves two partners. I was able to mention two of them at the same time. But when it comes to new partners and finding new partners, we're not a sales organization the way that some would be. We need to have partners, and we'd like to have more. If you're watching, feel free to give us a call. But how cool to have, I don't even know what to call that. I mean, there's self-generated leads, and there's, you can have email campaigns, and you can do cold calling, and there's a lot of things that you can do. How cool to have a business owner recognize the marketing strategy and the advertising tactics being taken by a business, think that they like enough to want to find out if there's somebody responsible for it that they could meet, and then actually take action to try to find out who it is, have a meeting, and then have it work out. So I just feel like that's such a great success, and it speaks, really well to, all the work that all of us do on behalf of Northeast Factory Direct, but really on all of our partners. I think that, that's not something that could never happen again. It could happen again because of what we're doing. So I'm really proud of that. I love that. I love that I don't have a name. I tried to come up with one. Is that reputation-based, reference? What is? I don't know what it is, but I love it. Really, really super proud, and I feel like that's one of the biggest successes. So, all right. Who's next?
Steph.
All right, so Todd went with a couple of our peers name drop in there. I'm going to go opposite direction, and my favorite success story is one of our smallest companies that we work with, and that's Easy Pet. That was, first of all, it was a success. They found us. So the tiny bit of self-marketing that we do worked, and they found us and came to us. And then it's just a small company like that, small advertising budget, just getting started, just trying to build, and we were able to help them put together some strategies, some creative that helped them grow enough that they had to say, wait, we're growing a little too fast, let's pause everything for a second, let us catch up, and then we're ready to start advertising again. So that part's really cool. But then selfishly, it's dogs, and I get to do creative that has dogs in it, so that's always fun. All right, Anthony, what do you got?
Well, you took mine. The Easy Pet's always my go-to. No, now I got to think on my feet a little more.
Sorry, man.
Not just because he was on last week, but working with Bath R Us and Chad has really been kind of eye-opening. If you had told me in April that you could have a company grow or start and grow during all that's going on right now, I probably wouldn't have believed, especially just from the relationship that Chad has with Todd and myself and the Me and Joe team. I feel like I've learned a lot from him just on whether it be power of positive thinking, approach, or when to turn off notifications on your phone. But it's just been a really good partnership and truly a partnership that they've grown exponentially in a few short months. Mike, what are you looking at there?
So that one, I love that one because I think that's such that's such a good brag for what you've really done, Anthony, for Bath R Us. It's unbelievable, number one, for them to start in a pandemic, but also so much for that business. It's so cool. My favorite success story is like probably my first or second week, and it has to do with Progressive Auto Group, but it's more about Todd. They wanted to have an endorser, or at least that was our idea for them, was to have an endorser. And it's Massillon, Ohio. It's a small town. If you've ever driven by it, it takes 5 minutes to get through it. And the way Todd broke down who would be the perfect endorser for them, and just the way he thought of it, had names of people. Maybe it's just in Ohio in general. No, this guy's got to be from Northeast Ohio. He's got to really breathe Northeast Ohio, and Massillon's such a football town. It's got to be football, and it's got to mean something to Progressive. And when he came up with Chris Spielman, it's one of those things where you're just of course that's the guy. So one of my favorite success stories is just seeing that mind work, and then for it to come into fruition and just absolutely be the perfect fit for Progressive. It was so cool. All right, Jimmy, you're up.
That's awesome. Before you throw it over to the one thing that's funny, and I could have said something about everybody's, and I was trying not to, but I remember being in the room and saying to them, who's the most trustworthy, or who's the person most like Massillon, and one person was like Paul Brown, and then I was like, who's the most famous or most trustworthy or most relatable Massillon person who's still alive? Right away they said exactly who I had been thinking about and what I was thinking about. So that actually added a little bit of fun to the whole thing. So, but yeah, that's great. So sorry to interject. I'm going to do that all day.
No problem.
So Jimmy, in 4 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like I've been around long enough to contribute to any meaningful success story. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But I mean, as far as good things go, Anthony, we were talking about kind of content strategy earlier in the week, and that got me really excited. So I'm looking forward to the success that will bring, if anything.
Well, if I could say one for you, it didn't have to be one that you've contributed to, but you don't know all of them at this point. So, but I'll throw one at you that you've contributed to, is that we have a partner that is actually a little bit closer to home, in that it's a bit of a side business. Partners is High Street Tees, and in just the last 4 weeks, we've made some moves that were super quick, coming up with some T-shirt ideas, launching or dropping some new designs, and you've been a big part of writing posts, creating ads, and working in the collaborative way that we do, and also in very quick turnaround mode to get it going. And they've really, it's really paid off. It's really been fun to watch, and we've been stepped into some new territory with it. So that's actually been really cool, in that it's our business, but we also are the marketing team and the digital team and the advertising agency for it. And sometimes we play around a little bit in that space to, test some things out. And we've definitely learned some things that can help with that, and probably with others. So that's been really cool. And I said I was probably going to say another one at the end, and I am gonna talk about this one in particular, and we touched on it when Chad was here. But when we work really closely with our partners, and we try to with everybody, but a lot of times we really get into the business, and solve some major problems or issues or challenges that they're facing. In the home improvement industry in general, there's seasonality, but the companies the really good companies that are super successful don't want to lay people off, during certain months. They want to have their team there all the time, and they're in business to be in business. They're not in business to just make some money during certain months. And, we worked for, a long time with Universal Windows Direct, and, certain months of the year where, maybe people just don't, many people are in the market for some of the products, and there's a few months of the year that were challenging. And we joke around, and everybody's heard me talk about Santa Claus being undefeated, and December is one of those months that's kind of tough when people don't not necessarily always spend a lot of money on certain projects at that year. And then, in the summer, every year we talk about, for multiple partners, that July, other than in 2020, is typically the month of the year where there's no school. So it's also the middle toward end of summer, and people have done a lot of things to improve their outdoor space. They're enjoying it. They're hanging out. They're going on vacations. They have all the summer activities, camps, and whatever's going on. And July just happens to be this one month, pretty difficult for a lot of home improvement companies. And so, a lot of companies will, scale back and not invest as much money in marketing and advertising and just essentially take it. And then some companies, really want to figure it out. And that was a challenge. Was like, what do we do in July? And so back in 2016. We decided to have a partnership with the Cleveland Indians, and the partnership had many facets to it. And there was signage behind home plate, and there were radio commercials, and there were a number of different aspects to the campaign, all designed around branding and hoping to generate some phone calls and get some in-home estimates scheduled. And I'm making this a really long story, sorry. But the one of the keys to the campaign was we were going to run type of a special promotion in July that would really move the needle. And let's see if we can figure out a way to have July, be like any other month and not like the normal July. And so we came up with an insurance contest, which really came from a couple years before that when come back, and we were talking about possibly having if the Cavs won the championship, that everybody who bought during a certain period of time would get their project for free. And it was a very insurance policy, because with LeBron coming back, the Cavs were already one of the top one or two favorites, and so we decided not to do that. But the idea was to let's do something that, and so like an insurance contest. And so the their 15th year in business that year, and what if we do something like around a win streak? And we came to this after a lot of brainstorming, but if the Indians win 15 in a row, everybody who buys during a certain period of time gets their project for free. And insurance policy. And I remember, and I said it last week, but I remember I know exactly where I was sitting, and I know exactly where Chad was sitting and where everyone else was sitting in the room. And he said, do you think if it happens, or when it happens, he might have said, that we'll get on ESPN? And I said, I guarantee that if this happens, that if they don't just do it on their own, that I will work really hard in every avenue that I know to make sure that it's talked about during SportsCenter, because I be that big of a deal. And we had heard about some other teams that did, I think the Patriots. There's a mattress company or a furniture company that has given away furniture if you bought, during a certain window. Patriots win the Super Bowl, or the Red Sox win, and it's been mentioned on national sports shows. Fast forward, the Indians went 15 games in a row. We have on the 15th night we have a watch party for all. Everyone was invited who had bought during the month of July, and everyone. So a lot of those people came, and they had around, this game means $5,000 to me, and there were people there who had had windows replaced, siding put on, and a new roof and gutter protection system, who had, tens of thousands of dollars, committed to a project, or they had already had the project done. And so it was really fun, and the game was on, and the Indians just crushed. And so it was just like waiting for the game to be over, and everyone went, berserk. And the Indians went on to win 7 more games, 22-game win streak after that, which is a record. And just the excitement, of the whole thing was great. For me, exhausted that night after the watch party, after the 15th game, and I went home and eventually, laid down in bed and flipped the TV and put on SportsCenter, and Kenny Mayne starts talking about, he's doing an interview with Corey Kluber, and who was the starting pitcher that night, and he's if he got windows from this company, because if he did, he could get them free. And Kluber, I don't think he smiled at all during the answer, but he said something to the effect of, "Oh, I guess I should have bought some windows." Or that conversation that happened, where I remember exactly, and I will always remember where we were sitting and saying that, and just watching that happen was one of the coolest things. So, yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, that's such a great story.
And there's so many more, but we had some good ones.
So there's another one for all of us, but I kind of want to skip it and just get into the fun stuff. So
let's do it.
So we've got the Ask Me Anything for each person individually, and we're gonna do this in seniority as well. So they're all gonna start with Todd. Todd, remember, there's 5 of us. So we gotta get to all of us. No, I'm kidding. But, and this is enough. So your first question is, what's your favorite college story that you love to tell?
I mean, is this going to be on YouTube forever? I mean, what's the deal here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can't, I have to eliminate like the first 5,000 stories that come into my head. You know what I'm saying? Like, my kids could watch this. I'll tell this one because I think I'll make it fast, as fast as I can. All right. Yeah. So when I went to Ohio State, everybody who knows me knows I'm a very proud Buckeye, born and raised. I went to Ohio State. Senior year, before graduation, tradition was that you did what was called a death march. Your group of friends, whatever, would go to every single, anyone who served alcohol along High Street, and you'd have a drink, a beer, a shot, or a combination of those two at every place. And lots of people would have like white T-shirts and carry a Sharpie and be writing. I don't even remember, honestly, if we did that or not. I think we just went. But, you had a beer, you had a shot, you had multiples at every place. And we started way north and we worked our way south. And as you can imagine, that can get pretty ugly for a lot of. I remember we, no matter how much alcohol there was, I remember things like really, and came out of the beer stube. And for anyone who's ever been to the beer stube, they have a parking lot out front, very rare along the street, and it's all gravel. It's all gravel. And so, you make really smart decisions and good choices when you're in that situation. So we thought it'd be fun to do chicken fights, which typically you do that like in a pool, right? So you get somebody on your shoulder. So you got, guys who've been drinking. By the way, beer stube is about as far south as you would go walking. After that, you're pretty much driving. So we had walked and been to pretty much every establishment. And so I had somebody on my shoulder, somebody else had somebody on their shoulder. They start pushing, which is to try to knock each other down. And my left foot slipped backward and I went down on my knee. And I kind of popped back up. I didn't fall down, but I popped back up and it continued. And then it was over. Nobody fell down. And I realized that my knee was really warm and my shin was starting to feel really warm. And my knee had popped open and blood was pouring down my shin. And I was wearing these pretty sweet Air Jordans. maybe the 6, the Air Jordan 6, and it was just about to get to the shoes, and I went into the beer stew, not the cleanest establishment at the time at least, and into the horrific bathroom, paper towels and water, and I'm like cleaning gravel out of my knee, which is like, oh, this, like a bit. Sorry, Jimmy, you're one of those guys.
Yeah, I am one of those guys.
Yeah, don't pass out. And so I got it cleaned out pretty well, and then I took a bunch of paper towels and basically stuffed it in there.
Oh my God.
And then we went on, and we went to 3 or 4 other places. One place, Molly McGuire's. We did back then you could do what was called the flaming Dr. Pepper. So it was a shot. They lit it on fire. You dropped it into a beer and you chugged it. It tastes like an alcoholic Dr. Pepper. And when we all hit our glasses together, the flaming shots, my one friend's hand, the hair on the back of his hand caught on fire. I just remember seeing like flames and thinking it was the funniest thing of all time. And then we dropped it in and we drank, and he's like, putting out the fire on his hand. So we went to another bar too. We ended up at the one we planned on being at, and hung out for a while, saw friends, girlfriends, the whole thing. And at a certain point, my knee started to hurt a little bit, and his hand had some bubbles on it. And he's now a doctor, by the way. And he said, maybe we should go to the hospital. So we walked back to our apartment, and kid, don't do this. There wasn't Uber back then. And I drove to the hospital. And they, they put some stuff on his hand or whatever, and they stitched up my knee. 0 anesthesia, not even a shot of anything into the knee. And I'll never forget the med student, whatever this guy was, resident. He's like, I don't think you need anything to not feel this. And sewed up my knee.
I love that.
So
story.
there you go. Sorry, that was probably a couple minutes too long.
No, I love that story.
Wow. So hence my excitement about the Death March T-shirt.
I'm surprised you remember it, honestly.
Yeah.
Vivid. I have vivid recollections of the whole thing. So,
Man, that's incredible.
yeah.
All right. So here's one. Have you ever made a future Hall of Famer do something ridiculous? This is a great story.
So I have video. I have video for this somewhere on my phone. I'll probably have to find it. It could potentially be a box for all I know, but yeah. So years ago, we when working with Universal Windows Direct, had a partnership with future Hall of Famer Joe Thomas. Got to work really closely with Joe on a few, production days where we recorded radio spots and shot TV commercials and took photos and all that stuff. And that's also just been a highlight. Just greatest guy, coolest guy, so awesome to work with, so down to earth. Everything you would have. Wrote a commercial called Drafts, basically playing off Joe Thomas. And what he did on his draft day, which was not put on some absurd suit and show up in New York for the draft, but he went fishing, with his dad and his brother and a bunch of guys. And it's kind of this legendary story that he found out, like somebody had to call him and tell him who he'd been drafted by. But the idea was we'd get Joe on a boat and we'd have him basically say, like, I hate drafts, and then pause and then talk about the drafts that come from old Windows with cute or corny, depending on what you think, way of, talking about, needing replacement windows. And so chartered a boat with the captain on the Vermilion River, went out there, had all these cameras and all kinds of stuff set up on the banks of the river. And then we had to get Joe out to the boat. So Joe Thomas, future Hall of Famer, 6'7", 300 and whatever back then, had to get into a canoe and row himself out to the boat and somehow or other maneuver getting out of the canoe onto the steps on the back of a boat and get in there and stand there for a while, trying to card from the shore. So yes, I have made a future Hall of Fame or done something ridiculous, and I have that video, and I guess that could be a cool social media post when he goes into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, huh?
My favorite part about that is he was just okay with it. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll throw out there. And
so nothing is more Joe Thomas than the fact that he was like cool with it.
Right.
It did go a little bit long, and it was his off day, and he did date with his wife that night, and he was like telling me that he kind of had to go, and he totally kept going until we were done, and then he finally, we were done and he had to go, and I know he was late and maybe in the doghouse a little bit, so I sent an edible arrangement of fruit basket to his wife the next day and apologized because it was my fault, not his. So, yeah.
All right, Mike, what you got? Mike, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, we're gonna skip down a couple, but you have, Todd, one of the biggest bobblehead collections I've seen. What's your favorite bobblehead? And
So,
you don't have to grab it, but you probably should.
it's so not the biggest. I know people who have like hundreds and hundreds more. Mine's just fun. I collect, you get them at Indians games, you get them at Cavs games, and then, a couple of people got them for me as like Secret Santa gifts, back when I worked in radio, and everyone I'd see one that I thought was fun. And I have some really cool ones, like the John Adams drumming, the Tom Hamilton, where you hit the button and you can hear him make calls, are some really cool ones. I have some LeBrons and some, like, Cy Young Award winners. There's, cool old Indians. I got Joe Carter, and I have a plastic Browns one that's from when I was a kid that was in my room long before bobblehead collections, but I do have a favorite one, and you guys, some of you may or may not know what I'm talking about, but you could probably find it easily on YouTube. But when I worked in radio, I had I helped with a campaign that came in for Reebok, who had this new TV commercial series that they were running called Terry Tate Office Linebacker. And I honestly don't remember exactly what the commercials were about, other than there was an actor playing a football player, and he worked in the office with people in their suits and at the copier and getting wall, and he would just keep tackling people. And I honestly don't remember what it was about, but they were awesome commercials, and you knew they were about Reebok. I just don't remember what they were like really about. But part of the promotion that came with the buy that we got, after we, won the business, was to give away Terry Tate bobbleheads. So I have this Terry Tate Reebok, a Terry Tate office linebacker Reebok bobblehead. And I just think it's the funniest. Like, some people will never know what it is or remember it, but for me, it's just fun. It's one of the more fun ones. So
That's great. All right. Now, what's your favorite musician or musician? Like, what is that?
like a band or artist.
Yeah.
That's so hard. I always throw out a list because I can't say one necessarily, but I mean, I kind of grew up with a rocker dad and a kind of a rocker mom, and driving in the car, there was never a time where there wasn't music on. And so since a little kid, a big Rolling Stones fan. But I'm if the bands that I name are touring, I'm going. They're on every playlist I ever make, and it's Pearl Jam, and it is Red Hot Chili Peppers and Foo Fighters and Green Day. I'm a big fan of Counting Crows, or at least I was when they first came out and after. And then I have my other side of big Beastie Boys and old school hip hop with Run DMC and LL Cool J and some of that kind of stuff. So yeah.
That's great. I literally today was listening to a playlist that just had Beastie Boys and like a Tribe Called Quest like back and forth, and I was like, oh, this is great.
awesome. I've been listening to more music lately than I have in 10 years. I think when I stopped working at the radio station, I needed a break for certain bands that I had just heard too much, but I really spent a lot of time listening to more, sports talk and news talk, and but I've just been past 5 months really back immersed in listening to music.
Yeah.
Part of that, I think, is driving around in a Jeep with no top all the time, which just seems like weird to listen to talk radio. And then it's also embarrassing sometimes when Secret Lovers by Atlantic Starr comes on. I'm at a stoplight and I change and hope that the next song's better. Or, when I have a song that's about to come, or, I can see it on the screen before it starts and it's got like a swear word in it and my kids are in the car. Yeah. But I've been loving listening to a lot of music lately.
Nice. All right, are we moving to Steph?
Sure, why not?
All right. So for those of you that don't know, Steph has a massive equestrian background. grew up with horses. So the first question is, what's the most intense thing you've ever seen at a horse show jumping competition? Not just dressage, show jumping.
So, show jumping is much all we did. So, there are so many intense stories, and after watching Jimmy's reaction to Todd's story, I'm kind of not sure I want to say there.
Oh no!
Just stretcher. Just say a stretcher. No.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to hear about a horse getting hurt.
At a competition, luckily, I don't know that I've ever seen a horse get severely injured. People, I've seen plenty of injuries. I've been one of the injured. Good friends of mine have been injured and gone to hospitals. So we'll just leave it there for intensity and take care of Jimmy.
Thank you.
Probably smart.
Yeah.
All right, Todd, do you want to?
All right, so trying to decide which one to ask. I had a couple of questions. Is there one you prefer to ask?
Yeah.
Favorite Pearl Jam song and why?
So it's kind of like asking me to pick my favorite kid.
You want me to ask the other question?
So Pearl Jam songs, it depends what you're in the mood for. That's one of my favorite things about them. You can be in a I'm gonna mess things up kind of mood, and Pearl Jam's got a song.
Sure.
You can be in the I really love my husband kind of mood, and Pearl Jam's got a song for you. So if I'm seriously top of my head here, one of my all-time favorites is one of their first, Breath. And that one, I actually have that lyric tattooed on my arm. Release off 10 is absolutely top 10. As I'm getting older, Sirens is really speaking to me because it's what happens when you're dead. So yeah, it's whatever you want.
I, of course, agree. I know it was unfair because I don't know how I would answer the same question. So,
well, it just depends on what mood you're in. The other day, David and I, my son, who's 16, we were in the car together, and he grew up, as a young kid driving around with me listening to Pearl Jam, and something came on shuffle that he had never heard, and he's like, "Whoa, wait a second, Pearl Jam?" It's Todd, Wrath.
Oh yeah.
Right? And it's so out there. He didn't even know that it was them. So that's kind of why they're off.
Agree. All right, who's next for Stephanie?
It looks like it's my turn. I guess I wanted to know if there's any books you've been thinking about. Because I know when I came on, we were talking about different things we had read. And I don't know if there's something that's been living rent-free in your head recently. Wanted to know.
So if we're going all time, I've got to go with the Robin Hobb Farseer trilogy. None of you will know what the hell I'm talking about, but it's a great trilogy. Actually, it's a whole series. There's multiples. But the one that I read this summer that is kind of breaking my brain is the Revisionaries by A.R. Moxon. If you read the blurb on the back of the book, just the blurb kind of breaks your brain, and then once you read the whole book, you realize how the text is changing as you get through the book. It's really kind of fascinating. I've passed it on to a couple of people.
I'll have to look it up when I do the description for the video.
So we had a couple of the local high school teachers over to our house recently, and both English teachers, and they were asking, we always talk books with English teachers, and I brought out the reviews and handed it to one of them, and the other one was like, "Oh my gosh, that's on my list," and the other, "Now I want to read it," and we're kind of arguing over it. So yeah, I'd recommend it if you're at all into reading.
Well, thank you.
So totally going back to that first gear we had going, in addition to being a part of the horse world for a number of years, or equestrian world for a number of years, you coached as part of that. And I know it seems like you have some really cool coaching stories from that time. So if there's just one that kind of stands out as, favorite or most impactful coaching story from your equestrian coaching days.
Man, this one I didn't have any prep time to think about. And Anthony, you were right on. There's so many. I coached a whole lot of kids for a whole lot of years, and watched them grow up, and then watch them help raise my daughter, and watched her grow up following the lead of those girls. I don't know if I could pick a favorite. Honestly, I think just the idea of watching one generation mentor the next generation, who the next generation, because the teams I did started in 6th grade and moved all the way up through college. So at any one time in the arena at the barn, you could have, a 12-year-old and a 22-year-old, and they all kind of helped each other move and grow. So that for me was the coolest part of it. So Anthony, now that you blindsided me with that and got me a little nostalgic, it's your turn.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Payback for being a procrastinator.
Yeah, that's right, motherfucker. All right, so I think everybody knows, because I think we announced it on the show a while back, but Anthony got engaged this year. So I gotta know, what is it like planning a wedding during a pandemic? Are you planning like 5 weddings, like one for 50 people, one for 100 people, one for like...
So I think I'm actually, as always in life, benefiting from having an older brother who is getting married next week. So definitely learned lessons from his experience to do things like negotiate in the contract that should there be a government shutdown, we get our money back, or there's an alternative date. So it's been mostly interesting just seeing how different persons kind of are addressing the pandemic. Like the guy who sold us the venue package, like, this whole pandemic thing's BS and we're not listen to it, can't tell me what to do. And then the photographer who's like, we could all just kind of wear masks and wear like social distance, and the florist who's like kind of in this in between. It's been kind of cool just to see how the stereotypes of different professions have played out in planning a wedding.
That's nuts.
All right, so I had a couple questions. I think I can only ask one, so we don't run out of time. So I hope I picked the right one to ask. Who is the most accomplished player you played high school football against, and is there a story that goes with that?
So do I get to dictate what accomplished is?
Yeah.
Or,
Sure.
For sure. Yep. You
Use that word instead of like who went on to play in the pros or anything like that. So
I'm going to go with the Holly twins, who played at Whitmer High School in Toledo. All throughout, like growing up, we would always go to these camps, and these two twins always win the punt, pass, and kick, and it would always like drive everybody else crazy. And finally, we realized by the time we were like seniors in high school that they won because they're just that much more athletically gifted than everybody else, and there's two of them, so twice the amount of attention on them, and they end up going to Kent, and I think the one played for was it one of the California XFL teams, and like been to a bunch of training camps and just still grinding his way out through the NFL. But I would give him most accomplished over the first round draft pick the Browns had, Sean Kaiser, because they've actually played more meaningful football games and won them than, no, I'm kidding. Sean Kaiser's a really nice guy, and his brother chose the right school to go to and will be a very successful quarterback.
nice. All right, who's got the next one for Anthony? Mike? Or
Jimmy.
Sorry, Jimmy.
Yeah, I just wanted to know what parts of marketing are you most interested in, / like what do you think what makes you the most excited?
Yeah, so I'm really interested in how the historian side of me really likes how that all of these new like digital marketing and OTT and all of this new technology is the same strategies as print and any other medium there's ever been. I think people get really intimidated with like keyword research and PPC and SEO and how do we do all this stuff, and it really just comes down to how do you connect with people, which has always been the cornerstone of marketing. So I'm just fascinated with how people, I don't want to say overcomplicate things and make it like into this weird science thing when it just comes down to people. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. So just always interesting and fascinating to me.
So digital guy likes it. 1-0 guy likes it when humans screw up your whole math program.
Nothing messes up perfection more than people.
There. Amen.
Wow, that was weird.
That's the tagline right for this post.
That's great. All right, the time to ask questions of Mike.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going first. So Mike, I don't know that it ever even comes up which is why this is great that we're doing this. But I mean, you're a sailor. I mean, you're a captain. You have done it in college. Like it's like a thing. It's not like you're just out on the weekends, like on a boat. Like you're a racing sailor. So maybe just you could talk a little bit about that and clarify what I just said. That's probably not exactly right, but also like talk about the greatest sailing accomplishment you've had as a captain.
Yeah, so I mean, a bunch of my friends probably still that don't sail, they would always picture like in college. Now this is what I went to Providence College, and it's a bit of a partying school. So every Saturday and Sunday morning, I would have to wake up at 6 a.m. and I'd go sailing. And now that'd be pretty crazy because my buddies would see me like going to bed at 4 or 3 in the morning, and I'd still wake up and then, be back at 6 or 7 and then party again. But they would always say, what do you just like sit on a boat and like hang out? But actually in sailing, you race boats. So you've ever heard of America's Cup? It's the biggest sailing race. So they race. Now in college, it's like 18 boats on one line instead of 1v1. But probably my biggest accomplishment and what got me to go to Providence College so I could try to like sail against better competition was when I was 17 or 18, like my last eligible year, I was ranked. I went to nationals and I got 13th, I think, 12th or 13th at nationals. So that's like between ages of 13 and 18, you were 13th, in the nation. And then like 2 weeks after, it was North American. So, mainly Canada and America. But anybody from the continent can come. And I got out of, I think there were 96 boats there, I got 6. So that was pretty awesome. I was pretty pumped. Beat my brother. I'm glad he's going to be on the internet forever. I beat my bro.
Did your brother make it that far, or did you beat him back in the lower ranked races?
So he was out of the. Oh, I guess I should explain. The North Americans actually, it goes up to ages 20, I think 20 or 21. So he had already aged out of the nationals, but he was able to sail North America. So when he was in nationals, when he was 18, he got 9th or something, like really good. And then he went to college at Boston College, won a world or a college championship, and then came back and I kicked his ass. He'll never see this, thank God.
Love it. Nice. Who's got the next one for Mike?
I guess it's me. I don't know how you got up that early after staying out that late and sailing. That's impressive. It's all right.
Practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I guess. But I wanted to know what part of working on graphics or creative work gets you the most excited. I don't know, if you're working on a project, you're like, oh, I have a great idea. What gives you energy for a project?
I think my favorite part of each project is figuring out what story is supposed to be told, and then whatever platform we're putting on, what are the basic frames of that platform? So if we're just talking graphic design, it's 2D. So what can you do in 2D that's maybe minimal? And then, all right, what can we mess up with that maybe will create a happy accident? But it's almost starting at the very beginning and I know Steph and I kind of geek out about this, when we're making logos or stuff like that, where you really think of, it starts at color. All right, so green and blue are very medicine colors. Red is a passionate color. And you start to think of these different ways that colors make you feel, and so you're going to that base, and then it's all right. What if we put blue over here, and then you're just messing everything up. So it's kind of trying to create a story with the bare minimum, and then just the happy accidents that come through.
Cool.
I'm not allowed to say. Go ahead.
No, I'm excited for this next question. More for the answer.
I was going to say, you're not allowed to say Bob Ross.
All right, good.
But of all the creators, bit of a renaissance man, you like your 90s hip hop. like your comedians, like your art, your anime, a little bit of video games, like of all the creators that are out there, your number one pick.
I mean, the number one is so tough, and I won't go comedian because you just get canceled. But to be honest, to go back to the person that kind of got me thinking through storytelling, to the happy accident, to the, if you started something, finish it, just to get that rhythm in you, it's got to be Deadmau5. That guy, if you got the free time and the free income, his masterclass, even if you're not a music producer, it's just crazy to watch, to see this guy work. And he's actually the one who I would watch. I would be like in my dorm room for 8 hours watching him dream him making songs, just to be like, all right, how does he do it? And then to watch his masterclass, and I was like, oh shit, why did I waste that money? I already know, like I saw this already. But it's crazy to watch him and see him explain it, and for me to be like, that's how I do it, because I watched you. And he talks so much about, it's just a happy accident, especially with music and like analog synths, all these different sounds that you can create. So it's literally twisting a bunch of knobs and being like, I hope it sounds good. And then you're like, oh, that one was nice. Pick it back a little. Okay, yeah. So Joel Zimmerman, cheers.
Speaking of knobs and twisting and all that, how relieved are you that I didn't ask you about your DJ name?
I was gonna say that at the end. Like, I'm glad that DJ Reno will still be a mystery. The listeners will have to.
Those who know.
Yeah, the listeners will have to come back for it.
That's great.
But Renob is making a comeback. I'll let people know already. Renob's
Do you do weddings?
if you like mashups.
Awesome. All right, here we go.
All right.
Last but not least.
Jimmy, I'm starting this off. We had a great conversation just talking video games. I gotta ask, what is your favorite video game on any console or console? Just like number one.
I feel like it's a super vanilla answer, but like The Witcher 3 is probably my favorite. But I will say, Hellblade has been taking a lot of space in my head, only because I think it's I think they just did it with the character, and they tell an interesting story with the mechanics.
Witcher 3 is so good.
Yeah, that's an easy answer, but it's true.
All right, so if you like the Witcher game, have you seen the series adaptation?
Oh, I've seen the series. I read all the books. Didn't like the books. Didn't think they were very good at all, which is a controversial opinion. But I thought like most of the adaptations, good. It did what I wanted the books to do, which was make sense immediately. But yeah.
I'm outraged over that whole opinion. I'm kidding. I have no idea what any of it is.
Most people really like it, but I don't like the way that the author writes women or the character. Like, I don't know. We spend a lot of time in places that I think we should be spending elsewhere. But I mean, that's
there you go.
I feel like that's like the whole movie versus book perspective. Like the video game turned into book or video game turned into movie is always a hard leap, especially with something like Witcher. Like that's a tough one.
There's a great joke a comedian said. He goes, better than the movie, but have y'all read Mortal Kombat?
All right, I have a two-parter. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I said
No, you go for it.
you're good.
I have a two-parter only because the first answer is just going to be saying probably, but Jimmy, you're a runner. You ran in college. Longest distance you've run one time, and then your most noteworthy accomplishment in running.
I think the farthest I ever went, like for practice, was a 20-mile day. That was a long Saturday. But like, as far as most noteworthy accomplishment, I was able to like going underneath 10 minutes in the steeplechase, which is what I did in track and field, was a huge accomplishment for me because like I battled that like. I guess that benchmark for so long, and then like senior year I was like coming off of mono and a whole bunch of other stuff, and I was able to do it twice before I retired collegiately, so that was a big accomplishment for me.
Awesome, that's great. Nice. What else we got for Jimmy?
All right, so I'm asking because I have 2 children, a daughter and a son. I know that right now you and your sister are living together. Was that something that, when you guys were teenagers, your parents could have did? Did you predict that it would work out?
I guess like the short answer is no. I mean, me and both of my sisters, we just like fought all the time growing up, ruthlessly. Like I'm not sure why. And fortunately, it's gotten much better as. And with my sister that I'm living with, it's never been like we're closer in age, so like we relate to each other better. But I don't think in college, if we had like, if I had come back in time, if I had one time travel usage and I wasted it to tell myself that I would be living with my sister, like that doesn't make any sense. But it turned. Also, why did you waste that? But it's been good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would have used that to like figure out Tesla's IPO and buy it then.
I guess in this scenario, I went back to tell myself my future roommate would be my sister. So.
Why come up with that question? What would you tie back to tell yourself you could?
All right. Let's remember that for our next AMA.
There you go. Good job.
Anthony, you got one for Jimmy?
So we're gonna go full circle on this one and bring it back to the marketing side of things. Jimmy, you're a Cleveland transplant. You've come to the market. You stuck around. We've convinced you to stay. Of the advertising that you remember growing up in Rochester versus what you see in Cleveland, which market has the better local advertising?
Okay, all right. This is definitely a result from me growing up in Rochester. And refresh my memory, who is like the main car insurance salesman around here? On the bus.
Strachan Novak. No, I'm kidding.
But like their name, like Ryan. The last sound sounds like car.
K&R, hurt in a car. Yeah. K&R. Yeah, they're injury attorneys.
That's attorneys.
Oh, okay. Well, clearly I'm paying attention.
They should call target advertisers.
Getting their message across.
The interesting thing is, in like where I grew up, we had William Mattar, and it was like hurt in a car called William Mattar, and this is turning into a plug for them, but it was like just it's all 4, the whole name is 4, and so when I got to see the other attorneys, I was like, hey, why is that line not copyrighted? Because that seems a little too familiar. And clearly it didn't do its job, because I remembered William Mattar after having it ruthlessly drilled into my head by just living in the area, and I don't remember the other one. So I guess for sure that's just a side effect of Rochester.
So I have a follow-up question for you, and I don't know why, but somehow or other, and it might have been somebody else I was talking to, I kept thinking that you were from Erie, even though I remember at first thinking you were from Rochester, but somehow or other I changed and thought that I must have been wrong about that.
Erie, so Rochester, same thing.
Have you been to Nick Tahoe's?
I have been to Nick Tahoe's once.
Okay. Just once?
Yeah, only once.
Okay. And you had a garbage plate?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if. I think I've only had like 2 or 3 garbage plates in my life. I'm a bad like historian or whatever.
As long as you at least had it once, I think you're.
Yeah. I've had it once. Well, I don't like to. All right, cool. Better cancel the rest of my plans for today because I'm not going anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, Nick Tahoe's was great.
And are you familiar with Country Sweet?
That I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that
We'll talk offline about that.
All right, cool.
I'm going to need a couple jars, just so you know. Next time you're there. Cool. All right. I had a real heavy question that I wrote down that I was going to ask everyone if we had time, and I'm going to save it for another one. It was more of like a scruples, morals, ethics type of question, and I'm going to say is I feel like we've been having a lot of fun, and I don't want to bring down the whole ending of the whole thing. So stay tuned if you're watching this for our next AMA because there's going to be a couple good questions.
Yeah, and maybe you'll
What
find out
what a way to write a teaser, man! Like you, and I'm part of the show.
Yeah, I'll be tuning in next week.
Subscribe to the Patreon. Join our only. No, I'm kidding.
DJ Renob.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that was fun. We got through a whole lot of questions. We probably have new ones, and we'll have to do this again, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Happy birthday. Many more.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
All right.
it.
All right. Love you guys.
Everybody, way to go.
All right.